And we're on. All right. Dun, dun, dun. And let's see. After our last, what happened in our last session? It was basically all mainly hanging out at Saltwall. Which I'm going to pop up here. There's our lovely village, and people undertook some projects. 2 out of 3 of them went poorly.
Yeah.
And I did change the rules. So before there was a rule for crafting an item, and then there was a rule for a move for like researching or studying. So that's now one move called work on a project. And with that move, you can research something or study a skill, like Taimi was trying to learn how to sail, or craft an item. So that works. That's going to work a little differently if you guys choose to do stuff like that again. And again, this is like all play testing and figuring it out. But based on how things went last time, I made some changes to that. And then the other change I made was that for luck, based on what we talked about and how it feels like a constantly draining resource, except perhaps if you're a thief who takes the special advanced move for thief. The change I made was that upon leveling up, normally you get back 1 point of luck, but I've changed it to you get back an amount of luck equal to your new level.
Oh.
So the higher level you are, the more luck you get back. So we'll just see how that goes. You guys are, how far away are you from level 4? You're all about equidistant, right?
Pretty close. Yeah, 5 XP, I think.
Yeah, so potentially, yeah, this session or next, it seems like that's going to happen. So we'll see how that goes. So if you're going up to level 4, that means that you would get 4 luck points back.
Oh, fascinating.
Making that move. So we'll just see how that works out. So anyway, we are currently, according to my calendar here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's been 44 days since the start of your adventure, since you visited the Beast's Cave. It's mid-spring now, and you are in the lovely seaside village of Saltwall, and the weather is clear. The mornings are foggy. When you look down off that cliff into the Bay of Ancestors in the morning, it's just like one big sea of fog that gradually burns off over the course of the day. Tapias, your companion from Rayuna, is recovering well. He can get around a lot. He can get around basically without his crutch now. He just kind of like limps. You know, he kind of goes easy on that one leg. Is there any other news? Just to remember that there's some Corkine prisoners being held on a little makeshift prison down on the cliff side. And I don't think there's any other, let's see. I guess the big news was that Muirin managed to craft a dose of this poison dust that I have dubbed Dearmatic. In the Elven tongue, that means, I guess if I was Elven, I would say Dearmatic. Less harsher.
Also gentle.
It means, in Elvish, that means forgetful. And it is a powder that causes short-term memory loss when inhaled. But it retains potency for only up to a week after its creation. So you just crafted that, and if you don't use it within this next week, that dose will be useless. It is, however, worth 48 silver pieces. Sorry, say it again, Donna.
Sorry. You called it Dearmatic?
Yeah, Dirmaddach, and there's a it's in the that new document I put up on Google Drive. At the very end of the list, I'm making notes about the various poisons that you've crafted. I believe this is the 3rd. Isilmat's Bane, and then Lockfinger, and then Dearmatic.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, so there, that document is there if you guys ever need to reference it. Each category is organized alphabetically, so if you need to remember an NPC, I know you're all taking your own notes, but and feel free to add to that as needed. If you remember stuff or you want to remind yourself of stuff, just write it in that document. So
Just reading the document, it's cool to see the it says the meta.
Yeah.
Is that the name? Is that name? I had written down Metza before, which was like forest people. Is that different or is it the same one?
It's the same. I think there's a number of terms which have kind of morphed from session to session.
Oh, okay.
I either get the spelling or pronunciation wrong and then have to write it down, and it changes somewhat. It may very well be Metza instead of Meta.
Okay. And is that just for the humans of this land?
And yes, that is just for the humans. So the main kind of so there's various human cultures, and predominantly in the world you guys have grown up in, it's the Meta or Metza. Maybe it depends on what region you're from, how you pronounce that word. And
right.
The Korkeen obviously are the colonizing invaders from the north. We have the Venati, who have established Salt Wall, and then in Sakagara, which is the town you didn't quite visit, is actually a trading port city. So there's people from other lands there that you haven't met yet. Oh, and also there's Uzbek, which is off to the west of Salt Wall, and you have not met anybody from Uzbek yet. And there's elves.
Yeah.
Elves are kind of scattered. There's been a diaspora of the elves.
Is Saltwall like the Venati capital?
There's no, so Vanat, the original city, sank, and various kind of little flotillas of refugees were kind of scattered in the storm. And Saltwall just is a place where some of them ended up. So there are, in theory, or there are stories about other kind of Venati, coastal Venati settlements elsewhere, but there's nothing, they're not a kind of centralized nation anymore. So chances are they're just a series of kind of scattered settlements. Taimi wants to be a sailor. is you're putting your wishes and your naming, and Paiviki the pretty great is what I see there. I guess that makes me the judge.
Is Hivama, is that the name of this area, this piece of land?
This piece of land where you guys are is what is it? Navamgara. This is the Navamgara. Do you mean where Saltwall is?
No, I saw a word of Hivama with an H.
Oh, sorry. Yes, that's the continent. Because we were looking for a word to describe the land, and that means good land in your tongue, in the tongue of the locals.
Right.
So yes, that's the kind of continent or the large landmass that everything so far has transpired on.
Oh yeah, it'd be neat to see like a loose map.
There is a quite detailed map.
Like, okay.
But
like one that we would know everything, like only the parts, like is Uzbek part of the continent or is it somewhere else?
It's close enough to be part of the continent. Yeah, there's a just from chatting with the Venati, you would have learned enough about them to know that they're several days journey to the west, and there's a mountain range between the two, which is like been the big impediment for greater interchange. Yeah, and I think maybe for next session I'll create a map that sort of shows the parts that you've explored, so you have a more clear idea of where you've been and whatnot.
Okay. And the Korkeen would they be somewhere else, like a different continent, or maybe part of this one? loose connection.
Yeah,
guess-
that's unclear to you guys. It could either be
Yeah.
like some very far north part of the same continent, or it could be a completely separate land.
Okay.
Yeah, so this, oh, is that really blurry for some reason? Anyway,
Hmm.
I'll make a map like this that shows the full extent of your journey so far, but
Okay.
it won't be so blurry. Yeah, any more questions about the general situation? All right. So what happens next? What are you guys going to do next?
We still have 3 weeks of projects.
3 weeks. Oh yeah, you decided that you were going to do. Okay. What's happening on the second week?
Because Taimi failed so miserably that she can't even attempt to learn sailing again this for the second week. I think she's going to spend the second week starting to do some reconnaissance. Or actually, how far away were we from? How far away were we from the closest place we saw the River King?
That's about a day and a half.
Okay, well then over the course of a week, it feels feasible that like I could take a hike out there
Ooh.
and start to do some like River King reconnaissance.
Ooh, a solo scouting mission? Are you gonna take Annika with you?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, sweet. Awesome.
There's the boundary stone, right? Like a half a day away.
Yep.
And then you're in the River King's territory. Watch out.
Wait, Donna, I just got a message that you're requesting access to the file. Do you not have editing privileges?
I added my other email address.
Oh, okay. So that,
But
okay.
it's up.
But you
it's
can
good.
get in there.
And
Great.
yeah, I may have edited the document accidentally though, so
That's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
Not a problem. As long as you can get in there, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, cool. So that's Taimi's plan, is to head out into the wilderness with Annika. I love it. All right, Paiviki, what do you think you're going to do for this? Are you going to keep studying with Locke?
Yeah, I think she wants to give it another try. I was imagining that Paiviki was too impatient, being used to being good at everything. That's has to do with being smart. She was not ready to be to take her time, and she screwed it all up. So she's going to try again.
Okay, that makes sense. And then, strange flashing in the background. What about Muirin? What's Muirin going to do this week?
I'm interested to see what the I guess get like the sense of like how the prisoners are doing, and just see like who's like sort of gauging like the sentiment of like how long that might last, and then sort of chatting with Quan and other elders just to see like get a vibe for like what overall how they're feeling. But yeah, mostly just like taking in the city and reading, I guess.
You could try to train an ability if you wanted to, because those are
Ooh,
things
what is
we can
that?
totally do. Those things you just described, those would be like relatively brief conversations. But when
Like one thing. Okay.
if you wanted to, or work on a project, you don't have to. But I'm just throwing you out, just making you aware of the possibilities as far as that goes.
What ability would you think Or how does that work?
So you here, let me give you a, let's try this new share. I'm gonna cut the there now. Are you guys seeing the rules?
Yeah.
Okay, so on the right hand side is the stuff that you can do when you have downtime. Generally, you know, the sort of mechanized rules stuff that you can do. Get a job, rest and recover, train, and work on a project. So for training, you would choose an ability that you want to improve, and then you would sort of describe how you would go about that. So for instance, I want to get stronger, so I'm going to go lift a bunch of rocks or whatever. And then you would roll to see if you actually manage to, if you roll well, you get to mark that ability. And
I would love to train my intelligence. And
okay.
Can I do that by reading?
Yeah, well, what do you want to read?
Oh,
I think Paviki brought some books.
She has a ton of books.
Hot books.
I would also like to get better at Venati. Is that something that you have to practice out loud, or can I learn that by reading?
It all depends on your, I guess, goals with it. I mean, if you wanted to learn how to converse fluently in Venati versus you wanted to like be able to read it really well, but you could just do a combination of the two since you're in a...
Yeah, both, because I wanted to read some of the books, and then also I want to be able to talk to them.
Okay, that's awesome. So that would be a project.
Okay.
You'd be studying. That's sort of separate from training. Instead of directly trying to improve an ability, you're actually going to be studying to learn the skill of speaking Venati. Does that appeal to you more than the intelligence thing, or would you prefer to do the intelligence thing?
I mean, the Venati thing seems more useful, like as a concrete thing. The thing about training is that I'm like one away from marking intelligence, like all 5 of them.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, here's the, let's see, training in Venati would be an intelligence roll, right? If you work on a project, if you look down where it tells you what the results of the roll, if you fail the roll, you get to mark the ability used.
Ooh,
so if you worked a project and didn't do a good job of learning Venati, you could actually improve your intelligence.
That's great. Actually, I love that. That's awesome. Well done writing that rule.
Like, I think it's lucky in this instance because it's like you got that 1 mark to go and you boost up. What's your intelligence right now? Is it like 12?
No, 11? It's low. It's 10.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't even like bump me up or anything, but
yeah, but you'll get there. You'll get smarter. So study a language?
Yes, please.
All right, sweet. So just to answer your first question about the wondering how the prisoners are doing, it's pretty easy to gather that information. As we mentioned last time, one of them tried to escape and got injured and has now been put basically in isolation. And the other ones are relatively, it doesn't look like there's going to be any kind of revolt imminently. And Elisa, the word giver, has requested an audience with Atmaya, the leader of the town, but that request has not been granted yet. Kwan, in your conversations with Kwan, I think I mentioned this last time, Kwan's concerned about the long-term implications and how both the village is going to deal with it and what it's going to mean. You guys have talked about using the prisoners as kind of bargaining chip and things in case more attention is brought upon the village from the north. So yeah, that's the situation. Do you have any more specific questions? Or does that answer the...
No, I guess, yeah, I just wanted to gauge if anyone's going to do anything funny, but maybe they won't.
As far as, basically they get word from the guards, right? So there's some guards that are posted in shifts to keep an eye on the prisoners. And so far, so the prisoners are very well fed. They obviously, they just have a very limited space in which they can move, but it is open air, and it's actually a good sized, I mean, it's not so much better than like a prison yard, but it has a nice view of the ocean. And so for now, things seem okay. There's one other prisoner besides the guy who's in solitary confinement who seems kind of like angrier than the rest. But that person has not made any apparent moves to do anything.
Cool.
Okay. Okay, so I guess in the order of operations here, gosh, I think let's just Taimi and Annika are going out into the wild. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I actually don't even know what move that would be. Like, I don't know whether it's a project.
I think it is so that would fall under the category of researching a subject, right? You're kind of running recon, so we could do it that way, or we could do it as just like we could have a kind of roll a set out move, which is a travel and exploration move, and have that, a set out move to get out there and a set out move to come back. And those have potential implications, things might happen along the way. If we do it as a project, then and you roll a 6 or less and I make a move, then, something potentially dangerous might occur.
Yeah, whatever is the shortest way to do it. I don't want to spend too much time playing this interest.
Let's make it a project.
Okay.
Your mission is to venture into the wild and return with news. And, it's also find answers, isn't it? It is find answers, which is here. And you see more information than is readily apparent. Yeah, so I think what we're doing is, is it going to be a wisdom or intelligence roll?
It doesn't matter. Both are the same.
Really? What's your modifier for those?
Both are -1.
So we're taking into account the Taimi is a hunter, however, right? So even if you roll poorly, you will get whatever information a hunter might have. So, so you're heading out for this week mission. Consult with the judge to make sure you have what you need to get started or continue working on the project. So for the two of you, for a total of 3 days in the wild, that's going to be 6 rations you have to take with you, right? So you totally got that taken care of. And then Annika is equipped with what do you guys? It's Annika got a spear. You have plenty of gear to choose from. What would you like to equip Annika with?
I would give her my bow, my short bow and arrows.
Oh, nice. And then you're going to take the crossbow.
And I'll take a crossbow. Yeah.
The lazy person's.
No, it's more important. Every shot counts.
Yeah, every shot counts. Man, we have not seen you do any sweet archery, and you've got an 18 dexterity.
I know.
I'm dying to see some apples split on people's heads. Great. I just watched the video about longbow versus crossbow, and where people actually built the things based on their historical precedents, and then tested them out on armor and stuff. It was very cool. Sweet. Okay, so you got that. And has Annika got any kind of armor or protection?
No. No, I don't think that there's. I'm looking in the cart right now, and I'm knocking off the.
Do we have an extra set of chainmail?
You definitely have enough chainmail. I guess the question is, do you want to travel light and as quiet as possible, since you're making kind of a stealthy reconnaissance, or do you want to have that assurance of?
I think I'd want to have that assurance.
Okay, so Annika is gonna. You know what? You've got to convince Annika to wear the chainmail if you're concerned about her safety, because she's not. She's kind of too much of a daredevil to want to do that.
Okay. I mean, I would just lay it out for her that what we seek is, more dangerous than the beast in the cave. It's, it took stones larger than you and tossed them aside like they were apples. Um, yeah, I would just try to reason with her, but I think ultimately if she pushed back, I wouldn't force her.
You would not force her. Okay.
No,
So
I
that's
wouldn't.
on the follower moves. You can see the first thing under followers is give orders, and that's not what you're doing. You're not demanding or expecting.
No,
Instead, you're going to negotiate.
I will try to charm or deceive them because
Okay.
my charisma is actually pretty good.
And Annika is a fan of you, so
I still got a 6.
got a 6. Well, you get to mark your charisma,
Yeah, marking it.
and Annika's having none of it. If you want to convince her to wear armor, you're gonna have to try a different approach.
No, that's fine.
Okay. Then we move on to, so you got all the necessary stuff, you got your food, and you're ready to go. So this is a 1 week long mission. So you need to get a progress of 2 to complete this mission. And to do it, you're going to roll, you decided on intelligence or wisdom. It sort of matters what you pick because you might, you know.
I am going to choose intelligence because I'm close to filling that up.
Okay. And describe to us how you use your intelligence to get out there in the field and do your thing.
I mean, I just remember the steps that we did before. You know, I haven't stopped thinking about the River King and the potential of treasure. And so, like, even when I was on the goat, I was thinking, like, okay, we crossed the boundary stone, da 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 da. Like, okay, there was that spot that we slept in a field. That was to the west, da 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 da. So I'm
So you got a
using
mental map. You got the mental map.
yeah. I've got my memory palace, except it's like a field.
It's a river valley. Okay, great, awesome. So go ahead and roll intelligence, and you get to take +1 because Annika is helping you. So that negates the -1.
That's a 9.
Okay.
Uh,
So it says mark 1 progress.
you know what? This is a little bit meta here, but I know that we're probably going to level up at the end of this session, and I'm going to use a luck to
Okay.
just make it a straight 10.
Okay, sweet. Awesome. So that gives you 2 progress, and that means you'll be back back in 3 days. You know, this counts as your week project, but you'll be back in 3 days, no problem. And there are no mishaps along the way. And you got a 10. So I basically will give you whatever information you could reasonably discern, like whatever questions you want to ask about the territory of the River King, which is called the realm of the River King. That's what the Venati call it.
Okay.
And that is the big river that flows down from the Great Falls that you guys climbed down that one time where Tapias broke his leg. And along the western, well, actually, you just ventured there, so I will quickly show you. This is the landscape that you guys already traveled through and that you went back into. This is looking north from the direction of Saltwall, and sort of far in the distance where that sort of dark horizontal line, that's where the Great Falls are. So you're basically exploring up this river, and this whole area is called the Realm of the River King. So what would you like to have learned? What would you like to learn?
I would love to know if there's like a regularity with the time that the River King is out and about.
Yeah, so I guess it gets pretty intense. There's some moments where you guys are like huddling under some fir boughs in the brush, kind of like peering out as he wanders down the river. Occasionally he'll like knock over a dead tree and then like kind of step up onto the land, which is not something you saw before. These big trailing kind of vine-like limbs and kind of shuffle through stuff. And I guess over the time that you observe him, he's out during daylight. I guess the one day that you're up there actually watching him. because it's a 3-day journey.
Yeah.
He's out during daylight hours and then returns north by dusk. So it appears to go back towards the Great Fall when night falls. That's your presumption.
How many questions are you going to give me?
You know, I mean, anything that's can be reasonably answered by your. I'm happy to answer.
Well, I also know that I wasn't out there forever, so I don't want to have like
Right.
infinity questions. Do I? Is he always accompanied by those like alligators?
Yes. I mean, always. Yes. In the time that you see him, it's exactly as before, where there was like maybe a clutch of maybe half a dozen of these river creatures kind of swimming like in his wake or alongside him, or like actually climbed up on his body.
And then one more question. Do I eventually see him find whatever he's looking for
In that day?
in that day? Do I see him? Because I remember last time he was just like, he was searching around, kind of throwing rocks aside and stuff.
Yeah, he well, roll to get lucky.
Oh. I wish I could keep that. 5.
Yeah, no, nothing. I think the drawback there is Anika accidentally left behind a quiver of arrows. So mark off out of the cart. So and doesn't realize that. Like you guys were watching the River King and Anika set down the quiver because it was so bulky. And then it wasn't until you guys were halfway back to Saltwall that she realized that she had left that behind.
Got it. It is off the spreadsheet. Cool. All right. That feels good.
Okay, sweet. And now I forgot to do this thing, which is to roll to pass time. So where's my, okay, sorry, got to share screen, go back to the rules. So before the week or during the week, we roll to see if anything happens during this week, anything unusual. So I'll have Jan roll for that right now, which is just 2d6. If you see the past time move here, it's 2d6 plus, because you're in a village, you just take a +1 to that roll.
I got a 10.
Nothing unusual occurs, and you each may make 1 downtime move. Great. Okay.
Oh,
so,
interesting.
Sorry?
Oh, that's interesting.
Paiviki, you're continuing to study with Locke.
Yeah.
And before, do you remember what I said before about how long it would take you to learn the...
You said about a month.
Okay, so that means a thread of 8 progress. So you can just write down 8 little circles.
Okay.
And last time you didn't mark any, I recall.
Right.
However, with the new rules, when you fail, you could burn 1d4 of the ability used to actually mark 1.
Right.
So you would have that option if you wanted to. Otherwise, we can, if not, we can just plow ahead into this week.
Okay.
And you are continuing, let's say last time it's intelligence, because you're trying to learn magic.
Yeah.
Great.
Magic. The elusive art. So roll 2d.
2d6 plus your intelligence modifier, yeah.
All right. This week I got 10 plus 2.
Sweet. Okay, so you mark 2 progress on that thread, and then you have the option to mark an additional 1 if you burn 1d4 of intelligence.
Okay. So the question, I guess, with this move is if you're doing something that takes a week and you're kind of in that tracking time by the week, does that necessarily do anything would that mean that next week I'd be less intelligent, or would I have time to recover?
I think that you'd have to take a week to recover if we're breaking it down into week by week time. Yeah, in order
Okay.
for it to have any meaningful impact. Although it would have meaningful impact if, like, after this week you went and did something else besides downtime.
Well, sure. But
Um,
if I was doing the same thing next week, I would probably have a lower intelligence and have less of a modifier because I was so tired from studying or something.
right. And I guess that would be
Um,
the drawback to choosing to burn it, is if it might push you.
right. So her intelligence is, what is she? A 16. So yeah, she'd only keep that +2 if she didn't burn anything. So I think she probably won't burn anything.
Okay,
No.
great.
What's the thing for, as I don't have the new move in front of me, but if you get a 7 to 9, what happens?
You mark 1 instead of 2.
Oh, okay, so only with a 10 plus you mark 2.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm not going to make much progress if I don't get the +2. So yeah, I won't
Okay.
push it.
Yeah, and I can actually, I'm thinking about, I'm going to be keeping in mind maybe modifying that, the numbers, the progress there.
Okay.
So we'll keep that in mind. So there's like a montage of Paiviki sitting. So Paiviki has to sit on a ledge. Locke's hut is like right near the cliff that goes down to the bay, and Paiviki has to climb down to a ledge, like midway down, like before the sun comes up, and have to sit on this ledge in the dark. And then when the sun comes up, as the day lightens, all you can see is the fog all around you. Like it's just like this shapeless gray kind of expanse where you can't really tell. There's like you kind of lose all sense of depth. It's like a James Turrell light sculpture where you don't have any sense of perspective. And Locke is very intent on you smelling the sounds of the sea and listening to the water birds and feeling, allowing the fog to kind of come into you as much as possible, like to kind of breathe in and breathe out the sea air. And then she makes you, you have to catch there were a bunch of these little blue and yellow birds that come and feed on a little tree branch outside her window. And they always kind of fly away whenever you come near. They're totally, like, sometimes they just land right on Locke and like, kind of hang out on her. And the test that she puts before you is that you have to somehow hold a bird in your hand. So I guess I shouldn't say you have to chase one, but how would Paiviki go about trying to hold a bird in her hand?
Does the 12 mean that she succeeded, or is this a separate thing?
No, you succeed at it. I'm just curious how Paiviki specifically would achieve that goal.
Yeah, I think at first she starts out trying to figure out how she can outsmart the birds, and kind of thinks about like strategically how to like sneak up on them. And then she realizes that it's a total failure, and this is an example of how she can't get what she wants with just outsmarting and competing against the bird. So she has to I think it's probably an example of, I think she's taking it upon, she tried like giving them food and stuff like that. None of these things work. And she realizes that it's one of those, like, she has to not try to get the birds to come to her. And so she's like stretching herself to let things be instead of being ambitious.
Great. Yeah.
And kind of like a sort of giving in or giving up or letting her concept of herself go.
Great.
And probably finally when she's completely exhausted and she comes to that realization, the bird just kind of like lands on her head or something.
That's great. In fact, it lands on her head and poops there.
Yeah.
That's the kind of capper to your loss of ego, is that a bird poops on your head. And like leaning up against the wall of the little courtyard that Locke has at her house. And Locke brings you like a ladle of cold water because you're exhausted from running around all day and doing these various things. And then the bird comes and lands. And Locke says, a blessing you've been given. This bodes well. And you're like, when do I learn magic? Okay, Muirin. Who would you like to be your kind of language tutor? Who would you like to learn Venati from, of the people that you know so far? There's Durbin, the woodcutter. There's Maya, the chief. There's Locke is occupied with Paiviki. There's the goat riders that you came with. There's Quan. Quan's pretty fluent.
Does anyone enjoy spending time with me more? Because I'd rather not bother.
Do I have any friends? Yeah, Quan is certainly enjoys spending time with you for sure.
And like would enjoy. Yeah, I guess that makes sense for her to teach me. Then, yeah.
Yeah, and then you could have kind of guest tutors as the occasion arises. Okay, so you and Quan take morning walks together, and it's like you basically learn about sort of basic objects. This is the sea. This is the sky. These are cloud. The Venati don't have. Quan tells you that for a long time the Venati did not have a word for the color blue, because where they lived, the sea and the sky were both that color, and because it was all around and it basically was all things, they didn't need to name it. It wasn't an object that could be named. But once they arrived here and there were these little blue and yellow birds, they had to come up with a word. So the word blue in Venati, as far as Quan knows, has only been coined in Saltwall. And then, basically proceeds to tell you basics of the language, and then occasionally, you'll stop in at the, there's a little smithy where there's a coppersmith in town. So you meet some of the locals and chat with them, and it's very clear that everybody here really is fond of Quan. Kids kind of keep their distance because you get the feeling that they're a little too shy to approach elves, because elves seem particularly special to them. But all of the adults are just very warm and friendly towards Quan, and by extension, and because of your involvement in everything that's happened in Saltwall, they're very kind towards you as well. So let's see how that first week went. Studying language.
I'm rolling plus my int, right?
Yes, correct.
Oh man. Wait. Okay, so I think I have 8 plus 0.
An 8. Well, actually, with Quan's help, you got a +1 from Quan, so that's a 9.
9. Okay.
With Quan as your tutor, that totally helps you out there.
Thanks, Quan.
So you get to mark 1 progress. And did we set a progress for your thing?
Not yet.
I think 2 weeks for like a basic conversational understanding of Venati. So that's progress 4.
Okay.
So you get to mark 1, and you could mark an additional 1 if you wanted to burn 1d4 of intelligence.
But and then to regain intelligence, you have to rest.
You have to rest, yeah. And for downtime, it would just mean you'd take a week off from doing anything else to do that.
And it was a 4 progress thing that I have to
Your
fill.
total progress is 4, and you just marked 1. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then if I go down to 9, I'm still at 0. Yeah, I guess I'll burn 1, so I'll mark 2.
So you actually burn 1d4. That's the.
Oh, 1d4. Oh. Then I do not want to learn.
Yeah, that's kind of like you're burning the midnight oil. You're like staying up late with Kwan. It might be like in the course of spending several weeks studying a thing, it's like maybe it's that last week before you leave and go on your adventure or whatever, right? Like, it might be the more sensible time to do that.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you marked 1. Great. That's the first week of projects. Taimi and Anika return from the wild. Did the Venati know the nature of your departure, or were you keeping that kind of under wraps, Taimi?
No, we kept it under wraps, probably even from the rest, because I think Taimi would assume that the others would want to come, or that they try to talk her out of it. So she did it on the sly.
Oh, got it. Okay,
Well,
so you
maybe
just
under
disappeared.
the guise of going on like a hunting, like a hunting trip to like search for big game.
Great. Yeah. So do you come back empty-handed?
Yeah, I suppose we do.
Yeah.
But it's probably the biggest thing that we could carry back without running into too much problem would be on this side of the river before the barrier stone, and I don't think, unless there is any big game, that we would have found.
There are some big animals out there, but yeah, I guess for this particular project, because you were in and out, it was a quick job. Then yeah, maybe you come back with some small,
Yeah.
the equivalent of rabbits or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Week 2 of projects. So I guess I'm assuming Paviki and Muirin want to continue on their current projects, and then Taimi, what would you be up to?
I'm back to sailing, baby.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well,
Excellent.
my confidence is back.
Yeah.
I had a successful, trip. Nothing bad happened. I was able to like be in the shadow of the monster and like live to tell the tale. So, do we have to make that a downtime roll?
Yes, before this week starts, yeah, we'll do that. But your goal is to learn how to sail one of these single rigged or single sailed.
Yeah, and we never made a clock for that.
Yeah, so I mean, you can learn the basics of sailing in a week, and be able to like, sail in calm water.
Mm-hmm.
The calm waters of the Bay of Ancestors, and then within 2 weeks you could learn how to handle a little more a little more difficult stuff. So we'll say basic sailing will just be 1 week of effort, which is progress 2.
Yeah, and the advanced would be 2.
Yes, it would be 4 progress. Yeah.
Okay.
So why don't you roll for past time? So it's 2d6 plus 1.
7.
You may each make 1 downtime move, but a settlement event occurs at the end of the week. So something's going to happen at the end of this week. And in the meantime, we'll make our rolls. Let's see how Paiviki does in her studies.
All right. This time she rolled a 7 plus 2 is a 9.
Ooh.
So she gets 1 progress, or she could work hard and make 2 progress.
Or you could burn a luck and make 2 progress.
Oh, a luck. So in theory, she's gonna get back 4 luck at the end of this.
Yep. When you level up, I don't know if you'll do that this session, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'll burn a luck.
What's your luck at right now?
10.
Oh, okay. That's not.
The highest is 13.
Okay, great.
I'll go low in the luck for now.
Sweet. So that's 2 progress.
All right.
This is the week that Locke starts to introduce you to the wizard tongue, using some scrolls that she has. Well, actually, starts off just like marking in the dirt. Over by, there's a little brook that kind of on the far side of her hut that kind of spills out and makes a little waterfall, just sort of disappears into the mist. And in the mud on the side of the brook, she starts to teach you the marks of the wizard tongue and how what they signify, and how each one is a phonetic sound, but it's also has a numerical value. So by Vicky's learning a little math, like really rudimentary stuff, but like the combination, like mark making that has this, that each mark has multiple, and each mark also has a kind of location within the kind of organization of elements, right? Like there's a mark that means smoke and is also potentially 2 different numbers and also has a sound that goes with it. So you start to learn those kind of basics this week. Okay, and then we're in continuing to learn Phanadi.
With the help of Quan.
Yeah.
Oof. So like +1 only. It's hard. It's a hard language. I have a 5.
You got a 5. Ooh, so you mark intelligence.
Yay!
So that goes up to what, 11?
Is that so? It just immediately moves up to 11.
Yeah, you mark, so then you erase all your
Cool.
boxes, you erase all your circles, and then your intelligence goes up to 11. It goes up to
Awesome.
11. His intelligence goes up to 11. Ooh, and the judge makes a move
Oh man.
based on that.
Now Quan hates me.
No, that's not going to happen. Okay. Sorry, I'm looking at my judge moves here, trying to think about what would be. Yeah, so the little girl, you guys remember the kind of traumatized little girl, is one of the ones who's following you around. And of all the kids in the village, this little girl, who does have a name, Armin is her name. So she harbored a lot of obvious anger towards you guys just for being big people. And in the time since you've been here and you've helped out the village, she feels very differently. She didn't feel that way about Mirren, because Mirren, like Quan, is an elf, so she didn't have like any kind of like predisposition towards, other than positively towards elves. So of all the kids, Armin is the one who's really been following you guys around, and there's a point where it's very clear. Quan talks to her and says, and then comes back to you, like Quan goes over to kind of see what's going on, and then comes back to you and says, Armin wants to learn Elvish. So the position that you're put in is, I guess, to incorporate into next week's language lessons. Armin would come around with you, and you and Quan together would be teaching Armin Elvish at the same time that she'd be kind of, in theory, helping you out with Phanadi. But the trade-off there is that means that Armin would become very attached to you. So that's the, I guess the question is, do you want to risk that attachment or come up with some reason to, or excuse not to have Armin join you guys?
How old is she?
She is like 8.
I guess that seems okay.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
I'm
the
not
only,
thinking about
drawback could be
8-year-olds.
like, sorry, what?
Oh, I guess maybe I'm not thinking about what it's like to leave an 8-year-old.
Yeah, well, I mean, the issue is also her mom. Wait, did her mom die, or her mom just one of the?
I thought you said her mother was killed.
Yeah, her mother Arjuni was killed. So, it may be that Armin's looking. Obviously that's a really traumatic, horrible thing, and she's looking for some kind of contact. But so the drawback there would be you be creating an potentially strong emotional connection with somebody, with a member of the village, which may or may not be something you want. Is all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if
think
that's a
Marion.
hard decision.
Oh no, I mean I feel like Marin can sense like the connection, and maybe is maybe a little insensitive in thinking that there's no problem to like form a connection while you're in that place.
Yeah, well, maybe it's not for Mirren, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's totally fine. Okay, great.
Cool.
So you're just like, oh, that's totally fine. So yeah, next time and for the remainder of your lessons, Armin will tag along.
But that means I didn't progress in my actual learning
unless you want to
failed.
burn intelligence.
Right. So I'd have to burn a D4 to make 1 progress.
That's right.
And then that means like next week or when we set up an adventure, I probably can't do anything super training heavy or.
You potentially would, yeah. I mean, anything. So intelligence is used when you establish. It's used when you, yeah, anything that would require. You can still do those things, of course, but you wouldn't necessarily be as good at it. And you can recover intelligence slowly on, when you camp at night too. So you gradually be recovering it.
Okay, I'm just gonna burn it just so I did make some progress.
Okay, 1d4.
Okay. Ah, shit.
Oh no.
4. So I'm just gonna drop down to 7. It's pretty bad.
Whoa.
Oh.
Brain.
That seems really harsh. I'm not sure if I like that rule.
Welcome to 7 intelligence.
I now know how it feels, Taimi. You fall in love with everyone you meet.
Okay, I'm gonna tweak this rule on the fly right now, based on everything we just saw happen, and it's gonna be on a 10 or higher you mark 3, on a 7 to 9 you mark 2, on a 6 or less you mark 1, and when you choose to burn to mark extra, you're gonna burn 1d4 minus 1. So there's always a chance you could burn 0 on that last one.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
So that means instead you get to mark 1 progress, and
you still get to get the XP though.
you get to mark the ability for getting 6 or less. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that makes. I mean,
Well, it depends on how much, because you established the progress bar. So the progress bar for this was 4. And
Yeah.
so does that mean every different type of project could have a variable amount of progress per
Right,
roll
right.
success? Okay.
Yeah, that's part of is figuring out when you're crafting an item, it's set specifically by the market value of that item. Kind of gives you a ballpark for how many weeks it should take, but otherwise it's kind of up to us to kind of figure out what we think is reasonable. Or, in this case, I was just kind of laying down.
So should I
So let's say you actually so you did roll a 5, right?
correct?
So you mark the ability used, and you get 1 progress, and then you can either choose to burn for another progress or not.
Would this also retroactively work for the last week when I rolled a 7 to 9?
I think no. We're just gonna go forward
Okay.
from this point.
I will not
Okay.
burn. I will not burn that D4 of intelligence. So I'm just gonna mark 1 progress and then I'll remain at my 11 intelligence.
Great.
Thank you.
Timey, time to sail.
All right, 2d6 plus -1.
Wait, didn't we say that? Wait, what did we say was necessary? Intelligence? Is that what we decided?
Yeah, intelligence.
Okay. Oh, you think you decided that, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, I would love to roll dexterity, but I only think that there's so much knot tying involved in sailing.
The Venati have a knot-free way of. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, that's 7. 7 minus 1.
6.
Yeah. I'm gonna mark the 1 progress. I'm gonna take the 1 intelligence.
Yeah.
Which brings me up to an 8. And I'm gonna burn the D4 so that I can fill the basic sailing, and then I'll just rest next week.
Oh, okay, great.
We'll see how this roll goes.
Oh yeah, nice. Okay, so 1d4 minus 1.
1 minus 1 is 0.
Sweet. So you did it. You learned how to sail. You come back,
I did it. I learned how to sail, and I got smarter.
every day. Hey, look at that. That's what happens when your confidence is broken and you go right back in. Get right back in the saddle. All right, awesome. So you, what's that montage? It's just like 2 images from your daily practice.
I think it's like, I think the first week she was really like overwhelmed by like the mechanical nature of it. And like, I think obviously she doesn't speak the language, so they're pointing at things and they're yelling and they're like, pull that rope, do this, do that. But I think once she like really thought of it as just like managing the wind, and she thought about it in more of like a natural sense, it like just started to come together for her. She knows where to stand so that she's not upwind from animals. And so she understands that concept, and I think that was the breakthrough that she needed.
Oh, excellent. Love it. That's fantastic. Great. So yeah, at the end of that week, you're sent out. That last day, you're actually sent out on your own without your. There's two fisher people who were kind of eager to help you learn, and felt bad about laughing at you when you took your spill last time. And that last day, they kind of put you in the boat, and they don't, and you think they're gonna get in with you like they've done every other day, but then they like push the boat out and stand back. And then you're out there on the water on your own, figuring out how to make that work.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a nice, beautiful sunny day. Wow. Okay, so that's. Oh, and then there's an event at the end of the week. I gotta mark off this week. We just went into. It's now officially late spring.
Does this land have fantasy months?
Sure, I haven't named them yet. But I'm open. I'm open to names. Right now, it's just called Late Spring. The Venati probably have their own seasons, right? Their own.
Sure, yeah, of course.
This is probably like.
I'm sure there's like also a Colkeen calendar.
Yeah.
Versus a Venati calendar.
Okay, so for this next part, which is an event that happens, each of you, I have my settlement event table here, and you're each going to roll a d12. And we're going to see what happens. So starting off with Jan.
I got a 4.
Okay, and then Donna.
9.
9. And then John.
9.
Okay. This is the moment where the peddler from Uzbear arrives.
Hmm.
Are you guys seeing Jasper and Upajai?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's Yode. Oh, wait, where'd he go? Oh, maybe I forgot to put him in the. Okay, hold on. I think I can do this really quick. I've gotten pretty good at manipulating PDFs. There he is. There he is.
Aha.
So at the end of that week, oh, he's really big. This guy arrives in town. Everybody knows him as Gulam. They call him Gulam Goldbringer. He is, which in Venati is, they call him Soni Dedava. That means Goldbringer. So he arrives in the company of 2. So the main thing you recognize about this guy, so when he shows up, there's a little bit of a, people kind of run over to the north gate, and when he arrives, he has like a bell that he kind of, when he grows close to the village, he has a bell that he kind of clang, 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 clang. When everybody in town hears it, they kind of run over to the gate. And he has 2 helpers with him who are also, they only have they're clearly his protection as well as his porters. So they've got these big packs on, loaded up with stuff. And he kind of sets up a little, they roll out an Uzbear blanket right outside the north gate, and they kind of unpack all their stuff. So they have brought goods from Uzbear to trade with the Venati. You can see his left ear is missing. So that's a pretty striking aspect of his appearance. He's super, him and his Uzbear companions are super tan, like they're the sort of darkest skinned humans that you have seen. He's got kind of very leathery brown skin, and he's very smiley, and he gives little, he brings these kind of sour milk treats for the kids of the village, which he just kind of gives freely to them. And then a number of other villagers of from different walks of life are eager to kind of trade for little trinkets and special things that come from Uzbear. And they call him Goldbringer because some of the objects he brings are, there's nothing really huge and amazing, but there are little tokens and rings and whatnot made out of a kind of white gold, which is really rare for the Venati to see. So people are sort of eager to trade for that, and they're trading handcrafted items and honey mead for him to take back. There's a bit of a the Venati kind of have a copper smelter and a coppersmith, so they've got objects like that. So there's basically some trading going on. So this new person is introduced to you. Not literally introduced, but like, you encounter this new person and you can interact with him or not. He's certainly, well, actually, I guess the question is, do you want to make your presence known to him? Or do you want to like lay low and not let him know that you're there? Is that a concern at all?
Paviki wants to ask Akmaya, does he keep going? Is he on his way to the north, to the east?
He goes as far as Arlandweir. I think on one occasion he went all the way to Sakagara. But that was a journey that he was not eager to take again because they ran afoul of the slime devils, which I think you've heard of.
Yeah. It seems like he's going to if he went up that way, he would probably let somebody know what had happened to the Corkine.
I mean, nobody's supposed to be talking to him about it, but
right.
So he might say, I don't know anything, if questioned, like, oh, I didn't see them. So maybe the counter move would be to have you dress up as one and just at a distance do some patrolling so that if questioned, he could say, oh, yeah, I saw some word keepers out. Like, the Colkeen must be there.
I think he probably would go to trade with them. He's probably going to go over to the camp and be like, where's the camp?
Yeah. Yeah, the last time he was here. So the one thing that is in your favor is that the last time he was here, the word giver's house, which when you guys got here, it was under construction. It had not been started yet. So he had never seen, so now it's been dismantled. So he never saw that. But it's true the last time he was here, which was a couple months ago, the Aliza and her crew were there. So he does ask questions about them. And what's the story that the villagers are supposed to, you must have briefed them ahead of time on this.
Yeah.
What's the story that the villagers are passing along?
Should we just have them say that they just picked up and left? We don't know, they're gone. Or do we say, we conquered them?
No. I mean, what does he ask about them? Like,
well, he says like, in the course of him conversing with the villagers or whatever, he's like, oh, and I'm eager to trade with the word giver, like last time. And the villagers, he just says that, and then they are gonna give him whatever the line is schooled them to give. Yeah.
I think Paviki would be curious about chatting with him and learning more about Uzbear. Does anybody have Donna? You got any? What's our
the line?
Story?
What's the story?
I am also sort of leaning towards acting dumb and just saying like they're not here.
Oh, just not knowing why they left. Like one day they picked up and left.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess.
Who knows the motives of the Corkeen?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what the villagers say. He says, I'm eager to trade, and they say, oh, well, they're not here anymore. And he says, where did they go? And he said, I thought they were here for the long term. And then, so you guys get this report after the fact, just to imagining that you're not actually.
Sakugara is north, right?
Sorry?
Sakugara is north,
Yeah, that's right.
and this guy came from the west.
Correct.
So we say they went to the east.
Okay, so that's what the villagers say. They just headed east towards Arlandweir. We don't know what happened to them. And he says, oh, well, perhaps when I visit Arlandweir, they will have news.
Whoops.
So that's the situation. And then Paiviki, did you want to approach this guy in some way? So he's buying that. He buys that story. He's a little disappointed that they aren't there. But the complication is that he's planning to visit Arlandweir next, and then he'll ask around there about them. Okay, so what does Paiviki do?
Yeah, I think she would go up and she would say to him, yeah, when you get to Arlandweir, you should talk to, I'm trying to remember what that guy's name is.
Killian?
What's that?
Was it Killian?
Killian? Yeah, talk to Killian. Yeah, he would probably be curious too. If he hasn't seen the Corkine, tell him that last we saw they were headed over, out of town. Tell him that Paiviki knows that, we're good friends. So if we, if he sees them, then he'll tell you if they're in town or if they're camped nearby.
And you, my friend, where do you come from? Do you come from the capital?
Oh no, we've been traveling around with my friends, Taimin Muirin. We're exploring around the area, and and then she's like thinking about it, and she's like, and she tells him about the sorcerer, and trying to spread her credit for going into the cave of the beast. And
so she's like, hey, I killed the sorcerer.
Yeah, there's this evil sorcerer, and just without giving away what happened with the Corkine.
So the villagers who are there when you're telling this story, the ones that can understand the language you're speaking, start to nod and Paiviki, Taimi, they're like clapping you on the back and they're pointing at you, and they're making it really clear to this guy that your story is true. Like they're totally reinforcing your reputation. So you treasure hunters. You travel around. You see what you find. Have you had any luck?
Yeah, quite a lot. We were curious about the mountain called the Tooth. Have you seen it?
He sort of gestures you over into he lets his helpers kind of continue with the peddling, and he sort of gestures you over into the shade of a tree near the wall of the village and says, you speak of the Tooth of Mists?
Yeah.
Yes, this is it is to the west. Yes. Dangerous place. Dangerous. Avoid it. Ghosts.
Why is it?
Ghosts. And he sort of goes like a. It is the worst. We on the day we pass, we travel all night to get by as quickly as possible.
Uh-huh.
Only
You read
death
what's
waits you there.
I think he's like, ha 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 ha. She read the book called The Phantoms and Warriors. Does that have any mention of the tooth, or is that
Um,
not specifically in that location?
it does not specifically mention any, like, it doesn't have any, there's no words that connect to what your understanding of the Misty Tooth. You don't know of any obvious connection.
Oh, okay. Um,
But there's certainly wisdom in there about, ghostly
yeah.
manifestations or whatnot.
So Paiviki goes and just kind of gets over with Moirin and Taimi and says he knows about the tooth. He says it's on the way to Uzbear. He said it's full of ghosts. Is there something else we should be asking him?
Yeah, but what about the treasure? Sure, there's ghosts, but do the ghosts guard anything of value? Or do they just haunt the place as restless spirits?
Is Taimi asking him this question?
You said you brought us in.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked him that then.
He says, I will speak no more of it. I will speak no more. You avoid this place. All I say. Any who venture into that vale, into that valley, do not return. You will learn no more from me. The ghosts are evil spirits. And he I think his gesture is to I think the Uzbear gesture to ward off evil spirits is to he rolls up his sleeve so his elbow's bare, and he scrapes it on the wall of the village until it's abraded enough to draw a little bit of blood. So he goes, it's kind of we will speak no more of it, and he does that, and it's very clear that after you do that, you don't talk anymore about.
Yeah. No, I shrug and go back to whatever shenanigans I was up to.
But
All right.
friends, you find any other things, treasures, you bring them to me. We trade.
I don't think we have anything particularly great.
What have you got?
I have gold. I have. What else has he got? Incense, and he doesn't have anything particularly impressive. He has basically sort of objects crafted from a foreign land that in this area are of interest because they're different than anything people have here. But he has little coils of incense and various little golden objects. But he can actually also, he could pay you in Uzbear currency too, and he has some Korkeen currency as well. But if you wanted to, now or at some later point, when he comes back to town, you could potentially barter with him for something. So he's gonna stay here for a couple days and then head on to Arlandweir.
Okay.
And nobody else has any business with Gulam Goldbringer, then week 3 of projects. I guess week 4 of total projects.
Yeah.
All right.
Paiviki. This week is there's a light rain falling for most of the week. Oh, so before you roll, Paiviki, let's have Weiren roll to pass time to see how this week goes.
Is that 2d6?
D6 plus 1 because you're in a village.
Okay.
10? Okay, nothing unusual occurs. Everybody gets to just roll their projects.
Nice.
Right. Should I roll?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We got a 9 plus 2.
Bing. So you get to mark 3 progress.
I'm doing 3 now.
Yeah. On a 10 or higher, I've changed it to 3.
Okay.
The rules are moving fast.
And then if I burn intelligence, I could potentially get it up. I could be done with it.
Are you only 1 mark away?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. If you burn,
I did 2, 2, 3.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess I'll try it. So 3 minus 1, so I lose 2 intelligence.
Pretty exhausting final week. I think Locke has you staying up most nights to study the cycles of the moon. It's actually right around that. So there's like a new moon, and the darkness that comes with the new moon has particular significance in Venati culture, and of course in the world of wizardry. So the things that happen at the new moon are worth paying close attention to, and I think it's like a couple of sleepless nights that cause that intelligence loss.
Yeah.
But at the end of it, you've had a bit of a revelation, and I think what would be in your mind, so one of the things that Locke is doing is actually teaching you some of her magic. When you level up to level 4, you're considering multi-classing, right?
Yeah.
So among the let me think. I think the only ones, so you have those 2 spell scrolls. Locke has taught you enough of the wizard tongue to be able to decipher those books, but that will take time, right? To actually decipher those books. But in the course of studying with Locke is actually teaching you the magic that she knows. And the 2 spells that Locke knows are called Bright Fog, which was what she employed when you guys moved on the Word Givers camp, and Weave of Force. So I think at the end of that week, after staying up all night in in this totally pitch black night, and I think for that night, Locke has you go out a mile into the darkness of the kind of rolling grassland and sit by the cliff that overlooks the river. And it's all just like, there's no moon, there's no light to speak of. You're just out there in the darkness, and you kind of lose track of your physical self, and you're meditating or thinking about or doing whatever Paiviki does as far as the symbols that comprise the wizard tongue and their relationship to the physical world.
Yeah.
Knowing that those are the names of Locke's 2 spells. What is the first magical manifestation that Paiviki manages to accomplish? How does it happen? It's not like a big dramatic thing. It's like some small indication that you've been able to.
Yeah. I think that she's sitting out by the river and she's listening to the sound of the water flowing over. There's like a little waterfall where it's just this burbling water sound, and the sensation of like as the night falls and it's very hard to see with your physical eyes, and listening to the burbling sound, it's kind of like a sensory deprivation experience. And she's just going over like all the letters and the numbers and the way that everything connects, and suddenly it just clicks in her understanding, and she's trying to remember the words of the Weave of Force that Locke was telling her, and she actually can see, and she can't, it's not necessarily in her eyes, but she can see the letters themselves, and they're kind of comprising the flowing of the water and the earth around it, and you can start to see it all sort of like moving a little bit like that, and she kind of reaches her hand out into to sort of touch the letter. She can see like the letter forming, and she's pushing on the letter and turning it, and she can sort of see the water moving around her hand a little bit as it's kind of like pushing away from her.
Oh my God, amazing. Yes. And so there's
And it's
so,
like,
yeah.
it's magic.
And then right when you think it's magic, all of a sudden it's just cold water on your hand.
Right.
You pull your hand back. Can't think too hard about about how much you're
It's
messing with
gone.
reality. Great. Love it. And then I think when dawn breaks, you're just asleep in this field surrounded by wildflowers. And there's like some small...
Here's last week, the poop on the head.
Oh, that's so great. Oh, I love it. Fantastic. Awesome. Okay. Weirin, this little Venati child following you around as you and Quan continue to study. Now it's become less of a wandering. Well, no, I think you're basically, maybe you're wandering further afield, like out into the hills a little bit. And Quan has brought a book of Venati. Actually, the Venati use, they mainly use scrolls to write stuff down. So Quan has brought a number of scrolls, and you're out there sitting up on a hillside eating some, there's like some spring plants that you can chew on that are kind of like spring onions. And you brought some flatbread up from the village, and you guys are having a little picnic on the hillside. And Armin is there too, and you're kind of having this exchange where you're sharing Elvish, and Armin's speaking. At this point, you can kind of speak basic Venati with Armin. And why don't you roll to see how this week goes?
And then Quan is still helping, right?
Yes.
But is Armin helping?
It's like it's a wash as far as that goes.
Okay. Okay. 9.
Okay, so that's Mark 2.
Okay, cool.
Where does that put you? How far away are you?
I think actually that hits all 4 of the progress then. So I learned conversation.
Yeah.
Basic conversation.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Great.
That makes sense.
Wait, what was Timmy gonna do this week? I didn't even.
Oh, I'm going to try my luck at getting a good sailing roll.
Oh, to learn more.
See if I can get those 2 advanced bubbles.
Okay, sweet.
Is it time, or is it still Weirin?
It is. I think Weirin's made good progress on learning how to. I think there's a moment at the end of that picnic where Armin says something to you in Venati, like in this kind of like moment, like of kind of embarrassed confession. She says something like "Elves are beautiful" in Elvish, and then in response, what's a really simple phrase that you might say in response in Venati?
So is friendship.
That's great. That's awesome.
I'm also now realizing that this might be sad. The connection.
Yeah, I think there's probably a combination of, lots of feelings. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Armin is grateful to have companionship with, and because she was already kind of admiring of elves, it's particularly meaningful to her. But yes, of course, there's this sad thing where the kid's been through some stuff. So, but let's look at the bright side of a moment of friendship.
How do you spell her name for my notes?
Just ARMIN.
IN. Okay.
Great, and then we cut to Taimi going out. Are you going to sort of solo try to learn the more complicated stuff, or are you going to bring some helpers with you this time around?
Yep. I mean, if I'm trying to learn the advanced stuff, I probably, it probably precipitates that I'm back on the shore and I'm, maybe expressing my own personal confidence. And they are like, they gesture out towards whatever the more rockier stuff is. And they give me like and then I point at myself and then I point out there and I give them the, like, I could do it. And so, yeah, I probably take them to try to master that stuff.
Okay, great. So you guys all pile in and skim out there on the waves in this this rain that's falling.
That's a 6. 7 minus 1.
7 minus 1. You want to burn a luck?
We're gonna be getting 4 luck.
Yes.
Right.
No, I'll find some other way to.
But you're going to take the mark intelligence, right?
Yeah, I marked intelligence. You know what? I'm gonna take my chance with the D4
Okay, cool.
and see what happens. This might make me very much more less intelligent. I mean, I guess I could go down to a -2.
Ooh, wow.
Okay, I just got a 2, so that's only -1.
Okay, cool.
So that's not bad.
And
that's it. Bing.
You did it?
Yeah, that's the two
Okay.
2 dots for advanced.
Great.
Or obviously not a master, but can handle in
yeah, you can handle
not still water.
Yeah. You know
Nice.
the shoals pretty well there.
I was thinking we should get in a boat and circumnavigate this thing and become like the cartographers of this land. That would be valuable in and of itself.
I'm gonna say the cost, the move that I get to make, because you rolled a 6 or less.
Yeah.
Is that it is at the end of that week you're totally exhausted from the endeavor, so you're gonna burn 1d6 split between strength and constitution, divided however you want between strength and constitution.
Yeah. Oof, well, I got a 6. So I am going to take. And does that affect my current hit points if I lower my constitution into the negatives?
Yes.
Okay. Woof. I'm going to reduce my strength down to 9. So I'm going to reduce it by 4 points and then my constitution by 2 points.
Okay. Yeah, so you're completely wiped out at the end of that week, like sunburned. Muscles you never knew you had before have been used. You're, you have like like every morning you have a headache because of the concentration involved. Using your brains is hard. And then Annika. The day after you're done and you're just kind of exhausted and wiped out, Annika brings you like a nice breakfast of fruit and goat cheese.
Oh, very sweet. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm rough.
Okay. So now we're in late spring. The weather's getting warmer down here on the southern coast. And what is the next course of action?
Well, Paiviki accomplished what she was trying to do.
Yeah, we all did.
Naomi accomplished what she was trying to do.
Yeah.
So we're both tired or, mentally exhausted, but we got there. Do we want to do what we were attempting to do and head out to the island?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Wait,
one-
Myron, did you get exhausted too?
No. No.
But you learned some language, so.
I did. And then I learned I gained a little bit of intelligence.
Oh, you gained intelligence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron's doing okay. Oh, and I'm sad to say, Aaron, that dose of powdered poison that you created that 1 week is no longer potent.
Well, that's foolish.
It was a good experiment. It was a good experiment. Now you know you can do it. You know about how much time it takes.
And I didn't test it on anyone.
You
Ooh.
probably did just to see. I don't know who, but you definitely made somebody lose their memory for a short period. Who do you think that was? And is Mirren the kind of person that would do that? Would Mirren tell the person before they did it, get their permission, or would they just test it out surreptitiously?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I would ask.
You're ruthless.
I'd probably ask. It's true. But I would always ask first.
It's great when you do that when you're trying to accomplish something, on an adventure. You're like, I'm going to test this out on you. Is that okay? And then you blow it on, and they can't remember the fact that you were testing it out.
Right,
Because
yeah.
they immediately forget whatever.
Yeah, and then I mean, I would hope that like Taimi or Paiviki wouldn't mind being like,
Being a
short-term test subject.
Yeah, you could say you tested it on Paiviki, and that's why she lost 2 intelligence.
Oh, there you go. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the middle. In fact, that was the week that you had that really bad roll trying to learn magic, right? Like,
I'm so sorry,
All right.
Paiviki.
Lock-
It works.
luck was
It works.
outraged. Okay, so explore the Barrow Isles of the ancestors. An exploratory mission. Is that what you're talking about with Taimi at the tiller?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's some sort of secret or some sort of like mystery involved with those islands and that wizard.
Yeah. But let's get on the same page before we get out there. Are we going to be digging up graves? Like, if these are where ancestors are buried and the magician was looking for something, like, are we going to be digging up graves? And do we need to clear it?
Yeah.
Because Tiny will dig up a grave.
Well, yeah. We could take we could take what's her name? I'm sorry, I lost it. Akmaya with us. She offered to take us out to take us sailing at least into the bay. We could see if she would take us, and then if we find anything strange and we're not sure if we should be digging, we can just ask her if she wants us to find out what's wrong there.
Yeah, so I guess that's the question is, do you want to take it Maya and have it be a legit expedition, or do you want to go and say, oh, we're just going for a little sail around the bay, and then maybe cross some cultural lines?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd be comfortable like stealing from their graves since they've been so nice to us. But if there was some kind of, evil spirit or creature or whatever out there, I think it would be fine to take it on.
I
But
think it's worth bringing her if she's willing.
Yeah, she's she's totally willing to go out there with you.
What do you think, Taimi?
Yeah, I think Taimi is. I think in her mind, Taimi doesn't want to have to like give over anything we find. She wants treasure.
Yeah.
But she does recognize that these people have been kind to us and have given us this space. So she wouldn't push to like go there on a clandestine mission. So yeah, let's bring her along.
Okay.
I think that right now we may not get much, actual treasure, but we may start to unravel the mystery of what that sorcerer was doing here, which could be valuable.
Yeah, I agree.
Could I ask Locke one more question from a few weeks ago? She had mentioned that she talked about those vials of oil that you can put on your weapons.
Yeah.
And she mentioned that it would work for me and Taimi. And I was trying to understand if it was because we were chaotic or because we were warriors.
Sorry, I think I may have made it should work for all of you.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I may have made a mistake there about understanding. Basically, it has to do out of the fiction. It has to do with your alignment.
Yeah.
Right.
So it attunes a bladed weapon to your alignment, so that your that weapon is more effective against someone of the opposite alignment. So
And less effective.
What's that? And less effective against. Yeah.
Oh, and that's I didn't catch that.
I was going to say less effective if somebody takes the weapon and they're of the opposite alignment.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. That's correct. So yeah, John.
It's not less effective if I try to fight a chaotic person.
Correct. No.
Okay.
It's if you're a chaotic person. Sorry, if you're chaotic and you put this oil on your weapon, and then a lawful person takes your weapon and tries to use it, the weapon won't behave well in their hands. It could go poorly for that person.
So this oil would be great if we want to fight Muirin.
Or word givers, because
now we're
word
talking.
givers, if they're lawful, yeah.
Now we're talking. The prevailing alignment of Core King culture is lawful.
Nice. Let's go. Does this do anything for range weapons?
Yes.
But it would be, I guess, would it affect like a quiver, like a ammo block of arrows, the 3 ammo of arrows?
I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes. It doesn't work with blunt weapons. Basically, it only works on metal, right?
Okay.
And metal that cuts or pierces. So it could totally work on arrowheads.
And what about if you yourself change alignment after putting the oil on?
Yep. Then the oil remains the original. Once you put it on the weapon, that sort of establishes the.
Okay.
Welcome to trying to break down.
Yeah, I know.
The logic of Dungeons and Dragons.
You can't go soft once you put that stuff on. You gotta.
Right. No, you gotta.
Right.
Your weapon's gonna resent you if you you change your whole.
Right.
The whole thing.
Well, it might be worthwhile to lock in a blade or two, or should we save it?
Applying it, it doesn't take all. It takes all of 5 minutes or less. So if you're in a situation where you feel like you might be up against a foe that could be affected by it, that might be an opportunity. It will wear off after a week, let's say. It's an oil. It's like, it's an oil, like you oil your weapon. You do that regularly as somebody who takes care of their weapons. So it does have kind of a limited.
So you basically can use it once and it's good for a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Let's definitely hold on to it then.
All right. Well, let's go.
Okay, so you're going to take out Maya and you're going to venture out into the Bay of Ancestors to explore the Barrow Isles. Taimi's going to borrow one of these boats. It's happily lent. You guys do notice as you set out, so this is like a day trip essentially to make the circuit of these, maybe not hitting every island, but like hitting the ones that Maya wants to sort of show you. You'll be out and then back by dusk. And I guess there's a fisher person who comes with you as well. And they're going to, while you guys are exploring, they're going to be like catching fish and preparing food for you to eat. And you do notice that morning when you set out, you push out into the water, the prisoners up on the cliffside are all kind of watching you. They were also doing, some of them would be watching when Taimi was learning how to sail, but now that somebody noticed that like all of you were down there, and so they're all kind of they're all very curious, obviously, and you guys are the reason they're imprisoned. So and maybe one of them like shouts something, but you can't hear what they say over the wind, and then you push out into the water. And so what Maya is just going to show you, go to the kind of biggest or most important islands.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I think we would want to see, or Taimi would want to see one of the islands that was marked off,
Okay.
to see if it had been disturbed, and then to see an island that had not been marked off to see if there was any difference.
Okay. So it sounds like this is a find answers expedition, because you're trying.
Yeah, I didn't think that we were doing just like a 3-hour Gilligan tour.
Right. A pointed investigation.
Yeah.
Is what you're up to. Okay, great. So you're going to set out to find answers. And what would you say, like what's the category of answer you're looking for?
I mean, the first thing that jumps to mind is like evidence of tampering.
Okay.
Like we want to find answers of that would show that someone under the sway of the magician or the sorcerer himself had been here.
Okay. So evidence of grave tampering.
Yep.
Barrow tampering. Great.
That's one of those sentences that you wake up in the morning and you don't think you're gonna hear or say.
Right.
Does anybody have torches?
What's that?
Did anybody have torches in their? I guess we have adventuring gear, so we could pull out some torches from that
if needed. Yeah. Admaya tells you you're not going to be going underground.
Oh.
And explains as you're kind of sailing out there that basically on all of these islands, as I mentioned before, most Venati are kind of buried at sea essentially. So this Bay of Ancestors is both a bay above water and of ancestors above water and below water. And most of these little islets have basically the bodies of the kind of more revered ancestors were laid out and then just covered with stones. There are 2 or 3 that are actually interred in natural caves that exist on these islands, but they're considered hallowed, and only at this point, only the current Judagara is allowed to enter those places. So you guys are definitely forbidden, and even at Maya is not supposed to go in there. So that being said, supplies are on the ship, and if you needed torches for one reason or another, we can just say that there is a light source that you don't have to pull that out of your gear. That's just something that can be brought along.
Can I ask 2 questions before we go?
Yeah.
One was, you had mentioned a couple of brothers that were visiting.
Yeah.
Um,
Ishwar and Dilpreet. Yeah.
yeah, and they had been found drowned afterwards.
Yes.
Was there any knowledge of which islands they saw?
No.
Okay.
Somebody remembers. Some fisher folk remember seeing them out there in their boat, which was unusual because they weren't big sailors. And then one evening they were found washed ashore.
I wonder what caused them to go after to go searching when they are exploring. Seems Paiviki wanted to ask Locke too, when we mentioned that there was this this shell with the different islands marked off. She kind of looked kind of nervously out at the islands, like maybe she knew something. When I think we mentioned that we were wondering if the sorcerer had found something or was looking for something, she looked out at the islands as if she had an idea of what that might be.
Did you want to pursue that with her?
Yeah, I think you would want to ask her, because we were curious about following up on this wizard who was obviously up to no good.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you? Let me think for a second. So I think by the time you did. So you spent 3 weeks studying with Locke, 4 weeks studying with Locke. You spent a solid month with Locke, and basically getting in touch with some of the basic building blocks of the universe. And over that time, Locke certainly grew to respect you, and I think grew comfortable enough to actually tell you what you want to know about that. So in the course of some conversation you had during your studies, Locke talks about how objects of the physical world can be like the bracelet of cold that you brought to her can be imbued with or charged with powers beyond that which they're given at the forge or the weaver's table or whatever, right? Like this magical power that you've now seen and can touch can be brought into physical objects, and like the oil you guys have is an example of that. So she gives you this whole kind of explanation of how that works, and she confesses that the reason that she was concerned when you mentioned that is that the founder of Saltwall was a Venati called Dharmpal Takar, and he's considered the great hero of these people. And buried with Dharmpal Takar was his legendary blade called Misatara Katara, which means mist cutter in the common tongue. And this is the sword that legend says basically led Dharmpal Takar to the place where Venati could find a home on this cliffside. And this sword, which was forged in Vanat, right, in that home, the sunken city of these people, was buried with him on the largest of the islands out there. And he's one of these people that's buried in a natural cave. And so Locke, when you brought up that question, Locke was concerned that that would be a thing that somebody would be looking for, that somebody would want to steal.
And then I would ask her for permission to look in the cave to see if somebody has stolen it.
And that means that Locke is with you on the boat as you go out there, because you're not allowed, but Locke can go. So you're not given permission. by raising the question and communicating what your concerns are. If you do share them, do you share the? Yeah. So Locke has joined your day trip out to the islands.
Yeah. I mean, that really hones in. I feel like that answers a lot of questions. That seems like a pretty big thing that the sorcerer would have been after. So I feel like we should maybe beeline for that, and then maybe we can do some follow-up research about like what was one of the things he checked versus not checked. I don't know what other
thing that he was so eager to get from his uncle was called the Orb of Mists, right? So there's this mist cutter.
Oh yeah, maybe that wasn't what he was after.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he thought that the sword would help him find it or something. If his uncle has this orb of mists, maybe he thought the sword would help him get it if it's able to cut through the mists or something. Who knows? Let's go.
Okay. You're trying to find answers, and everybody's kind of helping out on this investigation. And the most, which means, so whoever's going to lead it sounds like either Paviki or Taimi are leading the search. Wisdom to sense or discern, intelligence to recall or study, or charisma to ask around. You can't really ask around. They're all dead out there. So who's actually leading the? Sounds like Paviki's leading.
Not
okay.
So that can be an intelligence roll, but then you're gonna get with all these people helping, Locke and Admaya would probably count as 1, and then Muirin and Taimi would be 2 more. That'd be +3 plus your 2, but the max you can ever get on the roll is +4.
Okay.
Which
is down to
investigation.
Anyway.
Sorry?
She's down to +1 anyway.
Okay.
So +4.
Yep, so you get 2d6 +4 for this kind of investigative journey.
Okay.
And the answer, and just to be clear, the sort of question you're trying to answer is, have these graves been disturbed? Or maybe which graves have been disturbed? What is the nature of the disturbance of these burial sites? Is that right?
Yeah. So I rolled a 5 + 4 is 9.
Okay. Yeah, so, and I think, so I guess you probably, and like you said, you're going to be visiting the islands that are marked specifically, or the ones that aren't marked. Which ones were you, or both? I guess you're just going to hit them all and compare and contrast.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the main question is the cave of Dan Palpakar, is that one of the marked ones?
It is not.
That's interesting, but it may not be public knowledge for everybody as to which person is buried where.
Right. Well, Locke and Maya can tell you that every Venati knows where Darnpal Takar is buried. And at the end of the series, or in the course of your visits to these islands, you do find the only evidence you're able to find of anybody doing anything out there besides, like, seabirds and, fisher folk aren't even allowed to fish off the islands, right? You can actually visit the islands to honor the ancestors, but you're not supposed to hang out there.
How big are these burial islands?
So the smallest one is like 20 yards across.
Oh, wow. That's the smallest one.
Yeah. And on an island like that, there's maybe 4 or 5 kind of burial mounds, which are, a burial mound for, it's no more than 6 feet long, just like a pile of rocks.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's some kind of totem or some kind of other marker. And then the bigger islands, like the biggest, Darnpal Takar's burial site is about as big as, it's probably 60 yards across, right? So maybe 3 times the size of the smaller ones. A little bit more than half of a football field in kind of length. So on one of the islands the only evidence you're able to find is on one of the islands that's marked, a smaller one near the shore. It's pretty clear that the graves were disturbed. And it's Taimi who figures it out because of the way that the moss has grown on the rocks and the way the rocks were kind of replaced. Like some of the moss is growing on the on the sun side when it should be on the opposite side. So whoever messed with these graves and like reassembled them didn't do a good job of replacing all the rocks. So there's, on one island you find evidence of that, and then on the other marked islands it's unclear. Your estimate is that it's probably been, if you go by the deaths of those 2 brothers as an indicator, it's probably been, and if you could assume that they're the ones who were kind of doing this stuff, that was probably 4 months ago. So between weather and everything else, it's not clear what other graves were disturbed. And when you visit the tomb of Darnpal Takar and Locke, there's a bit of a reverent, you're all kind of gathered at the entrance, and Locke says some words in Venati, and Atmaya is very reverent about the whole thing. Locke enters. And I guess this would be a case where the torch comes in handy. And yeah, I think that Locke has an oil lamp, like a clay oil lamp where they burn like fat. Locke goes in there with an oil lamp and comes out 10 minutes later and says that the grave is undisturbed. That she didn't actually see the sword. The sword is actually this is the only one of the ancestors that's actually buried in a stone kind of sarcophagus, essentially. So Locke is not going to like open the sarcophagus to see what's inside, but it's very clear to her that nobody has been in here. She asked the stone, and the stone told her.
Whoa. So
when Locke is in there, I ask Atmaya, when you have such a powerful weapon, why not keep it in the village to protect yourself?
It was Darnpal's wish that we, his descendants, and the next generations of Venati here in Saltwall learn to protect themselves, then depend on the weapons of their forebears. And this is what we have tried to done. Luckily, until the Corkine arrived, we haven't had much occasion to have to do so. But that was his wish, and that is the wish by which we have tried to abide.
She nods and turns.
You're like, what a way.
Satisfied with the answer.
What's that?
Satisfied with the answer.
You are satisfied, okay.
I want to sit down and question Atmaya and Locke and
Just to
say,
check in, sorry, just to check in real quick.
oh,
John, it's just about 11:30 here.
Yeah, I'm fine. When I'm working in this room, I'm fine.
Okay, great. Sorry, go on, John.
oh, Paiviki wants to question them and say, what do you think about this mystery and the brothers who were drowned and the sorcerer and his map? Does it bring up any ideas?
At my just defers to Locke and Locke. These brothers were always troubled growing up. Together always they were, and sometimes up to no good. They admired Bajnik, but we loved them and they were part of the village. And then they went missing, and we assumed that they had decided to go, occasionally Venati go on extended camping trips out in the wild. And we assumed that would happen, and that is what had happened. And then they were seen in the waters of the bay. And then all I can say is that when they washed up on the shore, their pockets were filled with trinkets and keepsakes of people in the village, things that had gone missing. They had, it turns out that they were thieves. So the tragedy was double when they were claimed by the water. We felt the loss of some of our own, and also felt that we had not seen, we had not been aware of the fact that they were stealing from us. But it is strange that their pockets would be filled with these things. It does remind me of the story you tell of the cave where this sorcerer and this beast dwelt, and what happened to Durban when he was there. How shiny things or things of value seem to be of particular interest to people under the sorcerer's spells. There may be something there between that and this.
How long ago was it that they were last seen?
It was 4 months ago was when they were found dead.
Would that line up with the timetable that we have of when Isomat was starting to get more greedy?
It lines up, yeah, yes. And it's around the same time that Durban went missing as well.
I wonder if there was a way that the sorcerer could have been controlling them or communicating with them from far away. Is such a thing possible? Paiviki asks Locke.
Is such a thing possible? Paiviki, we have talked of the possible and the impossible, and how the word impossible, what it means in so many different tongues, and how in the wizard tongue, those words are the same word. If you know how to bend the world, and she gestures towards there's like a white sort of seagull like bird kind of cawing overhead, and she says in an instant that bird could poop on your head. Um, with the wizards, with the way of the wizard or the way of magic, many things are possible. I have only what you have learned from me, and what you'll continue to learn is only a mere fraction of what can be done. And from what you say of this sorcerer, he perhaps has reached too deep into the beyond, and when one does that, who knows what can be done.
It makes me wonder if he's really dead, even though I saw him killed myself. For somebody, the way he laughed at me when I told him to surrender and cast his spell at me, it's as if he had known something that I didn't know was possible.
Yes, well, you are starting to learn.
He laughed because he was a madman and he thought himself invincible because of the powers that he wielded.
I think we should go back to that cave and see what happened.
To see if he's still there.
Yeah.
Could you throw up the picture of the shell, Jason?
Yeah.
Taimi's not smart enough to think this, but like, what if it wasn't like a message? What if it was like a method of control?
The shell?
Yeah, what if the shell was being used to like direct them where to search? Maybe there's something about it being from the ocean, or maybe it was passed along via whatever wicked couriers he uses as by way of an update of what they had searched and what they had found versus not found. Oh, can Aunt Maya and Locke show us, or I guess we can figure this out based on the fact that we are currently on the island of Ron Paul Tucker. Ron Paul Tucker? Is it Ron Paul Tucker?
Dharmpal Takar, D-H-I.
Ron Paul Tucker.
He's on the Google sheet.
Uh,
Yeah, this is the island of Dharmpal Takar. So it's totally out of scale. Like, this looks like the biggest island according to this crude map.
yeah.
But this is just like a super crude. The placement is right for all of the islands, but the sizes are all wrong. This is the island you're on right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. There doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason. Well, I don't know whether is there any sort of pattern. Now that we've seen the islands and can compare them to that.
Yeah, the one that you found clearly disturbed, is this one.
Yeah.
The bodies of the brothers were washed up. So the mouth of remember the big river you guys followed down? Actually, this is the river that goes all the way back through this is the River Kings River, essentially, that empties into this bay.
Yeah.
The mouth of the river is here, and the brothers' bodies were washed up on the beach here. Oh, and I should mention their boat was actually found kind of freely floating. So their boat was recovered. And used to they were buried at sea, and so the boat basically, like, holes are punched in the boat and it's filled with rocks, and then they're sunk into the bay. So the boat was sunk with them in the water.
Are there any dangerous creatures that live in this bay?
In this more shallow part here, the worst thing that you could run across is bad weather, and in the kind of shoaly areas. Further out, there is a creature, or not just one, but there are creatures that can be dangerous, that have been known to actually capsize fishing boats. They can't. So the bigger Venati ships don't have anything to worry about, but smaller fishing boats can be capsized by these. I mean, when they're described to you, they're kind of like almost like sharks without fins. They're like broad, and they're kind of broader and flatter, and have big sort of rough skin, and they can occasionally do a kind of breaching thing where they can capsize a ship, capsize a fishing boat. They call them blackbacks because they're the hide on their back is like a black.
We've asked these two. We've mentioned the orb of mists in front of them, right?
Yeah.
And they don't know what that is.
They don't know what that is. They have heard of the Misty Tooth, but they don't know. They've only heard about it from not from the Goldbringer guy, but from other people that have traveled to Uzbek and back. It's been mentioned, but they don't know anything about it beyond the fact that it's like supposed to be a scary place.
Oh, not the Misty Tooth, the Orb of Mists.
Yeah, sorry. I was just following up on the Misty thing. They have not heard anything about the Orb of Mists.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah, maybe he thought it was here, and when he realized it wasn't, he just like, whatever, hold off the legs of the cockroach and they died or whatever.
You mean like if it was like a voodoo doll or whatever? Like a...
Yeah.
Yeah, we still don't know what the sorcerer was doing here. If he, in fact, came here.
I don't think he did. I think he somehow ensorcelled these two. He must have abducted Durbin, and we still don't know whether he came to Saltwall to do that, or whether Durbin got close enough to be ensorcelled. And if we know that Durbin only went as far as the Boundary Stone, then that implies a tremendous range of his glamour. But if he had come here, even within a distance within like a smallish range, then he could have also ensorcelled somebody else and controlled them at a distance, or who knows? Timey's stupid. But yeah, I mean, short of digging these graves up and seeing whether there's an artifact here that they don't know about, which is off the table, I don't know of anything else to do with this. I feel like this is the most answers that Taimi can see getting from these mounds.
Moirin, what do you think?
Yeah.
She honestly agrees with Taimi. Thinks that Taimi sort of is onto something.
In a rare moment of clarity.
Yeah, it seems like it's difficult based on what we have seen to guess more. But I don't know, it might be interesting to like just keep talking out to Admire or Locke. Just they're not letting us into the that burial thing at all, right? Like no one is allowed to.
That's right. Only Locke is allowed. Only the current kind of spiritual leader of the village is allowed.
And she confirmed the sword is still there.
Yes, she asked the stones.
Oh, she asked the stones, which
Didn't
is
see it with her own eyes. It's apparently
yeah.
been interred with Dharmpal Takar since he was put there, and according to Locke, it's undisturbed.
The mystery remains as to what interest did the sorcerer have in Saltwall? Why there were some books on working with metal and learning the Venati language. I wonder if it's possible that the Misty Tooth has some sort of Venati origins.
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, that's so diametrically opposite of their origins.
Yeah.
But in that case, maybe it is. No, I'm actually. Taimi sees the merit in going back to the cave to investigating some of the books. I think we were just very afraid to like get away from there and get the monster away from there. I mean, there's a very real possibility that Isilmat and Onikas will still be there.
Yeah.
But as you know, he's like number one on Taimi's shit list.
Poor little Pyko. Yeah, I think you guys took all the books of interest. And they're all buried in Mirren's hut back in Rayuna. Right? I don't think you left any books behind that were of you.
Right.
Which is not to say, I think the big, if I remember right, the big things that were left behind, that the biggest mystery, so there's the body of the sorcerer, who knows? And then there's that room with the, where the ritual circle was being created. Where you took those gemstones that were there.
Yeah. The topaz.
So we're getting close to the end. So perhaps a powwow on what that next course of action would be. The realm of the River King is between you and the Beast's Cave, so you could do a two birds with one stone kind of thing. And
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
try to dip in there on the way north, unless there were any other. So I guess the other thing is, Gulam Goldbringer is on his way to Arlandweir. There's another phrase I never thought I would say today when I woke up in the morning. And I think, so Paiviki, you were thinking, if I'm clear, that by having Gulam ask Kalian and make like that Kalian would sort of catch the drift that he should spin the story. Is that what you were going for?
Yeah. Just let him know that that we are thinking that we don't know where they went.
Well, if you want Quan to get in on this, Quan could actually just run a message, could just run that message right to Kalian. Quan could be your kind of messenger if you want to just make absolutely sure that Kalian keeps the story straight.
Oh yeah. That would probably be good.
Okay. So we'll have Quan will run that errand. So then the next step would be heading north.
Yeah, I'm still all on for River King shenanigans.
Did anybody? Are you guys down enough on abilities where you'd want to take a week to rest and just get everything back, or are you okay setting out?
I wouldn't mind recharging, because I have 3 abilities that are down right now.
If
Yeah.
we recharge, I'd like to make more poison.
Oh yeah,
'Cause that takes a week, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So should we do one more real quick week thing before you head out? Yeah, wrap up with that. Does that work?
Yeah, I mean, if in the whole spirit of multi-classing,
Yeah.
I don't think that Paiviki's going to earn enough experience to become a new level this session. So if she leaves before that happens, will she be able to? Has she gained enough knowledge?
Absolutely. I think that when you level up on the road, you'll have some revelation, or you'll test out something with manipulating the wizard tongue, and yes.
Okay.
And your first 2 spells would be Bright Fog and Weave of Force.
Okay.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
But then how does that work in terms of like, I know that we get a move on the odd leveled, but by multi-classing, you're going to get or you're not going to get an advanced move. You'll just get the basics, like starting package moves.
When your new level is even, you get an advanced move for your playbook.
When your new level is even.
Yeah,
Got
so
it.
you're leveling to level 4, so that's exactly when Paiviki can.
But so can you not multi-class on the odd numbered levels?
That's right.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, which may be a problem with the system. I've tried lots of different ways to handle the level up and keep hit points from getting out of control and whatnot. And
Yeah.
this
I
is
mean,
currently where it's at, but it definitely does raise these questions of like, oh, it's just kind of a coincidence that Paiviki's one step away from being a wizard, whereas if there was still a whole nother level after that to go, then
That'd be a long
yeah.
way.
I mean, couldn't you multi-class in because you do get like I'm looking at the fighter moves, you know, you could move into the class but then just not get an advanced move.
move into the class, but not.
So if Paiviki was on the cusp of level 5, for instance,
Yeah.
she could move into wizard and then get all of those wizard starting moves, but just not get the advanced move that you would get at an odd number level.
The multi-classing is itself an advanced move.
Oh, okay.
That's why when you look at if you look at your fighter list, there's Templar and
Right.
yeah.
Oh,
So
got
that
it.
is the advanced move that you take, and by taking that move, you get all of the basic moves of that other class. So it's
I thought you like were literally getting the whole playbook.
oh
Are you?
no, you get the basic moves, and then you have access to those advanced moves. So the next time you get
Roger.
you can choose
Okay.
either fighter or magic user.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, one thing you could say is that you could take that move, and then in the future, if you meet the requirements to have it be true, then you could do that at some future date.
Right.
So if Paiviki could have taken it at level 2,
Yeah.
and then when she met a wizard and read some magic, then she could learn some spells. Like it would come into effect
Right.
when the criteria was met.
Yeah, you can totally do it that way. It's a little, I mean, yeah, it is a little awkward, and I wish there was a more elegant way to do it. So it's something I can think more about. Yeah, but anyway, let's do this real quick. Is Paiviki going to recover too, or do something else?
Well, I think she could stand to recover some. She's just down 2 intelligence.
Okay.
Could she recover and try to read that book that has that other language in it?
Sure. If you're just down 2, I think we can combo that. Sure. Well, I gotta remember which book that is. So you don't know the title of it. You just know. Okay. Did you just bring 1 with you?
I'm unclear as to what it is.
But you have 1 book in the Wizard Tongue with you?
Did you bring any books? Did Moira bring any books, Donna?
There was the Ancient Finati book. That's it.
Yeah, I don't think I did bring any. I have notes from a long time ago that say 3 in strange language. That's the only thing I wrote down.
Yeah, so those must all be back in Muiren's book pit.
Okay.
Floor library. So maybe he's particularly eager to get back to those now that some of these strange signs are making sense. However, you basically, those 2 scrolls that I think you do have, Locke kind of cautions you that it's risky, but with your current knowledge, you could actually use those scrolls.
Yeah.
Because you can make use of the wizard tongue. So if you felt the need, you could try to, and we're in the right tough spot or whatever, you could use those scrolls.
Yeah. That could be handy, especially the one that can transmute matter. You never know when you're going to need that.
Okay, so Paiviki, roll to pass time for this week of recovery. 2d6 plus 1.
7 plus 1 is 8.
Okay, you each make a move. There's an event at the end of the week. And to recover, you're basically going to, what's your con modifier?
+0.
And
-1.
and okay, so Taimi, so Paiviki doesn't have to roll because bare minimum, you would get all your points back. But Taimi is going to roll. You're staying, I'm going to say it's modestly comfortable here. I think for your recovery, like Maya's going to let you stay in her house. So you get to roll 2d8 plus your con modifier, and that's how many points you get to recover.
First D8 is a 5. Second D8 is 6. -1 is 9. And that's how many ability points?
And or hit points, yeah. So
Wowzers. Okay.
you're all good.
Yes, I am all good.
And Muirin, you're going to try to make some more poison. I think we figured out you just automatically make more poison, right? Like because of your...
Right, because it was common and it's just worthless for after a week.
Yeah. So you can go ahead and make a note that you have 1 dose of whatever I called that thing.
Or something.
Doc. It's dear medic. Sorry. Dear medic. In the elven tongue. All right. Okay, and then as far as the event at the end of the week goes, just roll the dice, but don't. I'm not gonna make it. Just roll the dice to give me some numbers, and then next session I'll start with whatever that event is. So just a d12 from each of you.
I've got a 2.
2. Donna.
10.
Good job.
9.
All right, okay, great. It gives me something to work with. Oh, interesting. Okay, great. And then we'll do a real quick wrap up here. Unless there's any unfinished business that anybody wanted to deal with.
No, I can do it at the beginning of next session.
Okay. Wrap up. Here we go. Anybody fulfill an alignment goal? Let's see, no systems of order were disrupted and or maintained. Fulfill a trait. Anyone?
I felt like I was curious about sailing.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah, curious is such a good one.
It's a good one for, yeah, it's a game where you're doing lots of exploring.
Yeah.
Naturally. And don't forget that you can always switch out traits if you're unhappy with or you feel like your character is moving in a different direction. So that's always a possibility. And we don't have to sort through it right now, but between now and next week, you kind of look at the trait table and figure out if you wanted to swap something out. Muirin is focused, respectful, and ruthless. I think you totally get your
Focus, for sure.
Yep, and also you were very respectful of Armin, the kid, right?
Oh, sweet Armin.
Mm-hmm.
So you get extra for that. Paiviki, covetous, selfish, and bold.
I don't know. I mean, she was kind of drilling the peddler Gulam about treasure, but you know, I don't know if she fulfilled any of those particularly.
Okay. I'll let you can make that call. That's good. Fighter, did you solve a problem with physical prowess? I mean, learning to sail, I guess was a problem there, your problem of pride.
Yeah, well, I don't know. The only argument I would make is that last roll, I ended up getting pretty battered, and I gained my knowledge through those like rough times. But I don't know if I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might be just a low XP week. Downtime. Downtime is not the time when adventurers gain lots of experience points. Like thieves don't do much stealthy or trickery things. Oh, hold on now. You did make a scouting expedition into the wild. I don't know if it solved the problem. I guess it didn't solve a problem.
It didn't solve a problem.
Didn't solve a problem. Okay. Okay, did you make an exciting discovery? Anyone?
Learned how to manipulate the forces of the universe.
That's not very exciting.
That was pretty exciting.
That's awesome.
Well, we learned that you can talk to rocks, or Locke can.
Oh, we learned about the sword.
Yeah, you learned about the sword. Yeah, those are all great. Those are all great examples. Everybody gets XP for that. Did you overcome a difficult obstacle as a group together? No real difficult obstacles. Did you acquire some memorable booty? No. Right? Yeah.
No, we didn't.
Okay, so that's only like 1 XP, 2 XP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah.
Oof.
You know.
Yeah, I was expecting the level up.
Next time you got to hit the road. You got to get out there and adventure, or stash more gold, stash more.
Yeah. Yeah, I was writing down all that stuff in the wagon, and I think that I forgot the topaz and the bracelet of cold. I don't know if we want to just go down that road and just stash that thing, since it seems to be cursed. Try to get some XP for that. Like,
do you want to do it right now and see what happens, or hang on to it in case it comes in handy?
we could hand it over to Locke and say, "You keep this thing."
Yeah, that would totally count.
I feel like having a force field of any value is gonna have value at some point. I would hold on to it for now, but
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think that the whole thing is like, well, yeah, you throw it on, and yeah, sure, it tears your skin off when you have to take it off at some point, but it might protect you.
yeah,
I guess
I mean,
wondering about the long-term effects if it also turns you into a crazy, you know, mad wizard.
yeah, it could.
I need like a leather bracelet to wear underneath it or something.
Life hack.
That's right.
Right.
Have a cursed bracelet? Use this Velcro arm guard to protect yourself against.
This one weird trick is infuriating cursed item peddlers everywhere.
It might be particularly good at protecting you against like fire or something. You can wear it. You want to take that thing? Carry the burden.
Carry it around.
You don't have a lot of intelligence to worry about losing.
Oh. No, I don't.
You don't want to carry it? Okay.
No, I'm fine with my chainmail. Well, cool. Okay, so we're gonna finish up in town with our incident, hit the road, head to the River King.
Stop by the River King's place. See
what we can figure out. Then go to Isomat's cave, and then we'll reevaluate from there.
And I expect if you go that far north, you'll probably want to peek into Rayuna and see how things are going. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Jason.
That's some good, solid
Jason.
downtime stuff to work through. That was really helpful.
Yeah, that felt like the episode. Yeah, after because we had that big rowdy journey to go get the prisoners. This was like the in-town episode.
The chilling with pals. The montage episode.
I
Yeah.
thought we were going to find something out in those islands. I mean, we did find something out, but not much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was at first I was on the same page as you, Jan, where like I thought like, oh, we're gonna be like going down some stairs into like a tomb, and like the island is just like the entryway into something. But no, they were very tiny islands. Very, very tiny.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we had gone in secret, then maybe it would have been different, but
Yeah.
we were too respectful.
I couldn't. I thought about doing something on the sly or like proposing something on the sly, but they've just been too nice to us. It would be too much of a betrayal. And as irritable as Taimi is, I don't think that she would like fly that brazenly in the face of that kindness. But if she had gotten the okay to grave rob, she would have.
Bam, she's there.
She's there.
Give me a grave to rob.
It doesn't really explain what happened to those brothers.
Yeah, I mean, Taimi has no clue on planet Earth, but like John Chidurgeon is having like a great old time thinking about what all sorts of like wizardy stuff he was up to.
I'll never tell. Well, maybe when this campaign's all over, but it's part of the nature of a kind of sandbox campaign where there may be just threads that you don't end up connecting. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Sure. Well, I mean, also not everything is tied up neatly in a string.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the whole way I've tried to run these things is like there are reasons why things happen, and I know, I figured all that out, and stuff happens behind the scenes, and the world to some degree kind of carries on. But there's all kinds of possibilities out there, and yeah, sometimes things are just going to be left hanging, and you won't know the answer. Yeah, it was interesting that and it's totally understandable. You think, well, there's crypts out in that bay. Of course, it's like a dungeon we can explore. But then it's just a cave with a coffin in it that you can't go into.
Something. Well, I thought that was possible. I also thought there was something that caused those brothers to die, and that maybe we would stumble across it. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe we will figure out this mystery.
Okay, bedtime. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, y'all.
Thank you.
Awesome. Good night.
So next week?
Next time, yeah, next week's good for me.
See you next week.
Check in. Okay, bye.